Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Andrew Warren, and in today's video, of course, we got to talk about today's stock market movements and break down my portfolio in terms of gains and what's happening in the market right now. And of course, we'll also be talking about my predictions for the future. Of course, the Rona situation is lingering over us right now. It's obviously a topic, and it will affect the market in some way depending on how we react to this situation. So anyways, if you all enjoy these daily portfolio update videos where I talk about the stock market, the moves that I'm making, I break down each individual stock that I own and talk about the future for those, then please make sure to smash that like button, drop a like on the video. I would really appreciate it, and it helps get these videos recommended to newer viewers as well so we can grow our community here. And also, I just want to say thank you all so much for helping us hit 5,000 subscribers. I think I hit 5K subs late last night, and then of course today we're at about 5,100 subscribers. So much love to everybody that decided to join this community here. But just jumping back onto the main topic, as you all can see, we had a solid 1.17% growth day today with our portfolio, which equals at about a nice even $1,000 in gains. And then of course in the after hours as well, we're at currently plus 0.04%, which is about $36. So after hours is looking good so far, but keep in mind that after hours doesn't always mean much in terms of representing what tomorrow's stock market will look like, because even for the after hours early this morning today before the market opened up, Tesla was kind of in the green at plus 0.34%, and I guess it kind of did go along with that for the first few minutes into the market. But as you can see, Tesla ended the day negative, and most of the day it was negative. So keep in mind that after hours aren't always representative of what is actually going to be happening in the next day of the stock market. So that's just something to keep in mind. And futures are kind of the same way. You can have futures that are just bright red, deep in the red, like 2%. I know that was happening the night before Monday, but when Monday finally happened, the stock market absolutely just skyrocketed. And then, of course, we had a great day today as well. And I actually would have had a lot more gains if it wasn't for Tesla taking an L today and having a red day where it's like at minus 0.85%. So if Tesla was in the green or at least broken even, I may have made like, 2% or about 1.5% today, about $1,500 or something like that. So that's one thing. I feel like Tesla is that stock that sometimes goes against the grain, and it does stuff that you don't usually expect it to do. Like yesterday, it went up like 5 to 6%, and then of course today it's just in the negative a little bit. And it kind of differs from what the general stock market trend is. As we know, if we look at VOO, I like to use that as a good comparison for just the general stock market trend and what's happening in the stock market. This usually represents the growth across some of the top companies in the S&P 500. So when you compare a stock like Tesla to VOO, it kind of does its own thing compared to what the general stock market is doing. Like Microsoft and Apple are in VOO, and it follows that general trend. So of course we get a similar growth rate among these stocks compared to VOO. Whereas where Tesla is volatile and sort of its own stock, it's not in the S&P 500, then it does things a little bit differently, and we sort of have a different outcome in terms of if it's a red day or green day. Sometimes you'll have a day where VOO is in the red and Microsoft is in the red and Apple's in the red, but Tesla will be like super bullish that day. It'll be like plus 1.5% or plus 2%. So I just want to emphasize that Tesla stock sometimes can do the opposite of what the general stock market is doing, and that's actually a pretty good benefit on a day where most of your shares are in the red and they're actually down in value, whereas you have a stock like Tesla that you don't expect to make you money that day that actually will. So a lot of the times there's some benefits to holding Tesla stock. This was just one of those unfortunate days of volatility where it didn't perform as well as I was hoping it would, but I'm completely okay with this because I understand there are some days where Microsoft and Apple are red, but Tesla is in the green, even though the general stock market is red as well. So there are some advantages with Tesla for sure. And keep in mind, we have this event on the horizon as well. If Tesla ever gets included in the S&P 500, which VOO would actually correlate especially to, since it tracks the top 508 companies in the S&P 500. So if Tesla stock gets put into the S&P 500, for one thing, it's going to cause the stock price to grow tremendously. Obviously, that will be a big mover for sure because it puts it in the list of some of the top companies, like a standard for the stock market. So that's another event on the horizon that could boost Tesla's share price as well that people may not be keeping in mind right now. I know a lot of people are talking about battery day and advancements in the full self-driving technology and stuff like that. Very important things, of course, but there's also, if Tesla gets included in the S&P S&P 500, that will be a big deal, especially for the Tesla share price. So some of these other features like battery day and stuff, obviously it is a little bit investor focused, but it's more focused on just what the company is doing in general as well. Whereas the idea of the inclusion of Tesla in the S&P 500, that's more focused on the stock market and increasing the share value and its effect on Tesla stock in general. So that's a little bit more stock market focused, but I still think it's a big deal that can definitely have a positive effect on the share value for sure. And then keep in mind also, once it gets included in the S&P 500, I feel like it will be more likely to have similar patterns like the stocks that do go along with VOO. Like Microsoft and Apple are holdings within VOO, and they are in the S&P 500. So that's just something to keep in mind. If Tesla does eventually get included into the S&P 500, then there might be a chance that we'll see more consistency within this 3-stock portfolio in the future. For example, if we have a positive day for VOO, then maybe it's a little bit more likely that obviously Apple and Microsoft will be green, but maybe it'll be an increased likelihood that Tesla will be in the positive as well, since it is in the S&P 500. And still, Tesla is its own thing separate from that categorized group, but it still could have some sort of influence if it is within an ETF that is performing well for that day. So I'm just pointing that out as a potential thing that can happen if it does get included in the S&P 500. Obviously, it's a share price increaser. That's one of those things that can increase share price and increase perceived value upon this stock to get people to purchase more of it. But of course, as well, it could affect its growth days and red days as well. When you have Apple and Microsoft consistently in the green, when VOO is consistently in the green, and then if Tesla gets put in the S&P 500, which would be kind of similar to VOO, then maybe we would see a lot more consistency and correlation between the movements that Tesla is making compared to the movements that VOO is making. But that's just a little insider, something that I think will have an effect in the future. It's an aspect to consider, but just overall, like I said, it's kind of inexplainable to come up with the exact idea of why the markets are moving up right now. It's just one of those things where everyone has their own perspective on the market, and that's the reason that we can't constantly predict where the stock market is going, because sometimes it is so random and so unpredictable, and that's why people like to emphasize that you don't want to time the market, because it's really difficult to guess whether the stock market is going to be green or red the next day. And even if you can guess it 1 or 2 days, that doesn't mean you'll be able to guess it consistently. So that's why a lot of people emphasize that you can't time the market, because there are plenty of people that have lost out on this most recent rally right here because they've just been so bearish and have been fighting the Fed. As the statement goes, you can't fight the Fed. And I think there is some validity to that, because when the people that are controlling the money and basically controlling the stock market economy tell you that they will pretty much do anything to make sure it stays afloat, then, you know, that kind of goes along with the statement that you can't fight the Fed. I really wouldn't be putting a lot of money against the people that pretty much control the stock market, or at least control the general direction that it's in. Obviously, they don't control the stock market too much. We control it in, you know, normal economic times, but when there are economic times like this and they start printing more money and putting more money into bonds and stuff like that, that is going to have an influence on the stock market that is based on the Fed moves more than it's really based on consumer moves. But keep in mind, a lot of retail investors have been helped pumping this recent recovery up lately, and a lot of the big money investors are the ones that have been holding their cash on the sides, like Warren Buffett. So really, it's the people like us right now, like the Robinhood investors and the newer individuals that are just beginning investing, that are really kicking this economy back into this V-shaped recovery that we're seeing here with this portfolio. So that's something to keep in mind. Like I said, the Fed doesn't control the stock market, but they do have a huge influence. If they wanted to control it much more, they could, but obviously they have some limitations that keep them from doing too much with the stock market that creates too much of an influence, such as like hyperinflation and stuff like that, which is something we really want to try to avoid. And just to talk about the whole Rona situation, I feel like, you know, we have to talk about this. Obviously, it's something that has been in the media and society for like a few months now. I know I've basically just quit watching all of this media stuff about the Rona and all of these situations going on right now, because it seems like they've just been covering it constantly over the past few months. I mean, the media right now is loving this because this is just, this is huge revenue for them. People are watching the news more than ever before, it feels like. And I just try to avoid it because it's just constant stuff about the Rona. And obviously, we already realize the danger of the Rona. So sometimes it's just good for your mental health to stay away from all of that and just do your normal things that you enjoy in life instead of having to constantly worry about watching stuff like that on the media about the Rona and having to worry over it. And obviously, the Rona has a huge influence on the stock market, as we can see with the most recent crash because of the cases that were rising and the lockdown and quarantine and businesses shutting down caused a huge effect on the stock market. And it crashed over the past few months that we've experienced. So there's definitely some fear behind Rona, not only involving like the danger to human health, but the danger to the economy and the danger to the stock market. So with this upcoming wave, obviously, I still think it's something to worry about. I know there's different perceptions of how dangerous the Rona actually is. As we know, Elon Musk has really been putting the government's feet to the fire about how they classify the Rona deaths and how the numbers can be manipulated because of their classification system, and because something about like the hospitals getting rewarded if they do file it as a Rona death. And that's just another deep rabbit hole you can go into for yourself. But like I said, the potential of the second wave of the Rona is something that's on the fence right now that we're really considering as investors in the stock market. There's a lot of uncertainty and worry. Of course, as we see this recovery going past the previous point that we are at before the crash, there's even more uncertainty. People start to get even more worried because this is like uncharted territory. This is like all-time highs for a lot of the stocks out here, and especially the ones that are like work from home stocks, the ones that benefit even more and thrive in a situation where there's the Rona. So we are in some uncharted territory right now. But just to provide like a personal anecdote, it feels like right now, in terms of just like the amount of cases popping up and stuff, it already feels much worse, at least for me, because I live like in a rural area, and obviously the Rona is more like into the big cities and stuff like that. So when I see a Rona case pop up or a few Rona cases pop up in some counties surrounding me, that's a big deal. And it was kind of like a rare occurrence back in February and March and even April and stuff like that. But this time around, it feels like there's already much more people confirmed with the Rona in surrounding counties. And then there's also like political officials in my own county that are confirmed to have the Rona right now. So already, I feel like this second wave is hitting my county and the surrounding counties especially much more this time around. At least that's what it feels like for me personally. I honestly don't know the numbers right now. I don't know what the numbers are compared to what they used to be. I know that lately there has been an uptick in the numbers, but it feels a lot worse this time, especially in the rural areas, and especially considering that I don't live in like a huge dense populated city. So far in terms of just more cases and more people getting it, it feels like it's affecting my area much more this time in terms of just like local people getting it. And also one of our family friends as well, someone that I've known for a long time. They've worked with my dad for like 30 years. He actually got the coronavirus, and he called and talked to my dad just a few days ago and said that he's sort of got like body ache pains, and he's had a fever, I think, as well. And just, he said he hasn't felt very good, but it didn't seem as bad as what I was expecting, because I think my dad's friend is like 70 years old. He's pretty healthy overall, but from what I know about that situation, it didn't seem like there was a huge overreaction to him having it. It was just the news that he did have it, and he's had it for like 9 days, and I think he's about to recover from it. So at least in that situation itself, as we know, the Rona cases are different amongst different people with different health problems and stuff like that. But at least with my dad's friend, it didn't seem like as big of a deal as I expected it to be. But as I said earlier, there's a lot of people locally that are getting more cases and more cases. So it feels like there's like a bigger uptick in cases locally this time, or at least it feels like it's showing up early on and faster than the previous wave did. So that's just what's happening for me locally. I feel like it's more important to give like some personal anecdotes as well, because when you have personal examples, it puts everything on a different scale compared to just getting these statistics for the US numbers and the China numbers and stuff like that. So I just wanted to bring that up personally. However, I'm still gauging my perceived severity of this virus, because as we know, the media has been acting like it's extremely dangerous so far, and I'm still pretending that it's extremely dangerous. But as we get farther and farther on, I just want to see how society starts to react to it and what the actual numbers are. But like I've emphasized previously, I have a bachelor's degree in public health, so I'm all about the facts, and I'm all about, of course, public health measures as well. And I feel like there's certainly going to be a different reaction this time because we have some familiarity with the topic, and I also think some some people are just going to be willing to risk it and do their job and go to work, even when there is the risk within the second wave. So I feel like some people are going to continue on with their way of life, regardless of the uptick in cases. But there's also still going to be a lot of people in lockdown. I will personally be in the house most of the time. I've been in the house most of these past like 5 months, 6 months or so, just because some of my family do have autoimmune diseases, and then of course my grandparents as well. I want to keep them safe. So I'm staying inside for the sake of other people right now. But I'm certainly interested to see how society deals with this second wave in the future. But like I said, I just wanted to share a few anecdotes and, of course, talk about the stock market. But let's go ahead and break down these numbers for Microsoft and some of my other stocks for today. As you can see, takes up about 44% of my portfolio. Today's returns is at plus 2.59%. We're at plus $954 for today. Really, really solid gains for Microsoft. And then in total, we're at plus 13.09%, or about $4,400. So we're deep in the bag on Microsoft right now, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And then next up, we have Tesla stock. With this one, I own 34 shares, takes up about 39% of my portfolio. Today we had a negative day, so minus 0.89%, which is about minus $300. It's okay, I'll accept that. And then for the total return, we're at plus 17.10%, which is about $4,900. So very satisfied with Tesla. I'm actually really satisfied with every single stock that I own, except for the free stocks. Those I don't really count. But then finally, we have Apple stock, takes up about 17% of my portfolio. For today's return, we're at plus 2.63%, or plus $380. And then for the total return, we're at plus 23.10%, which is about $2,800. So like I said, very satisfied with all three of these stocks. I just wanted to share my opinions about the stock market today and try to emphasize some things that, I haven't mentioned in previous videos. I don't want to get too repetitive when I do these portfolio videos, but so far I feel like I'm doing pretty decent in terms of just keeping the conversation different and bringing up different examples and stuff like that. So I hope you all enjoy this video. Like I said, please make sure to smash that like button, drop a like on the video. Really does help me out. And also, if you would like to begin investing, feel free to use my referral link down in the description below to Robinhood and Webull. If you sign up with my link, then we'll both get free stocks. And as you can see right here are just a few examples of the free stocks that you may get. I would personally emphasize that this is a good way to get some passive income. Even if it is only like $3 to $10, it's still free money and it just takes a few minutes. So definitely check that out. And then of course you can also get some experience with these investment apps like Robinhood and Webull. So like I said, definitely check that out. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Stay safe out there.